Today we will be talking about GenAI. Anyone wants to give me a definition of GenAI or some examples of GenAI? How do you guys use GenAI? What does GenAI stand for? So GenAI is generative AI. So it means like tools like ChatGPT or Stable Diffusion or DALL-E are part of GenAI because you generate things with them. So I'm sure a lot of you guys use ChatGPT throughout your adult life, doing many things. But today I want to talk a little bit about how do different corporations or how do people in work are using ChatGPT or other GenAI tools. So a little bit about myself. Some time ago, I did computer science, and then afterwards, I went to law school. So I passed the New York bar. Then I went. And then afterwards, I went back to Hong Kong, worked for Ernst & Young for 3 years, and then afterward, got my CPA there. Then I started my own entrepreneur journey. So I've been working on my company for 8 years, doing machine learning and AI solutions. Throughout these 8 years, we work with a lot of different companies, different corporations. So just trying to see how we can put AI solutions in different companies. Including some jewelry chain, some financial companies, regulations, and also some universities as well. So these are just some of the use cases that we have. We do a lot of NLP, predictive analytics, and computer segmentation. So we also did some papers on GenAI and machine learning. But then I guess for you guys, what do you guys actually think of when you think of AI? You just think of like using ChatGPT, asking questions that I would answer, right? But then a lot of times it's not just that. Because for us, it's about how do you use it in a corporation. Now let's say for a very large F&B company, there's a lot of store managers, right? Like let's say you have, I don't know, Starbucks. You have a lot of store managers at the Starbucks. And then you have a lot of promotion and stuff, right? So what you would want to do with GenAI is ask questions about your company. For example, the last time I actually ran a promotion on this specific coffee, how did it do? So this is what a lot of times my company does. We connect companies' data and information to GenAI so they can answer questions like that. Or like, let's say you have a university, right? And then you want to do admissions. There are a lot of students asking questions about your classes, your courses, your curriculum. So what we do is to ensure that the chatbot or ChatGPT doesn't answer things wrong, that they follow what the curriculum is, they answer the questions appropriately. So again, here are some use cases that we do. One is an internal document search. So you could give a lot of PDF and files to the ChatGPT so we could answer text to SQL. So connecting ChatGPT to a SQL database so that you could answer things about your promotions, about your data, about your sales. So here, GenAI is enhancing workplace efficiency by 40%. So a lot of times, do you think after ChatGPT came out 2 years ago, do you think you increase your efficiency by 40%? Yeah, some people do agree. But then, like for a lot of people at work, it's actually really hard for them because for them, they don't really know how to use GenAI and how do you actually make sure that GenAI does the work that you want to do. So it's a lot about educating them about how to use GenAI so that you could use it better. So here are some use cases that we have. The first use case is that there's a lack of freedom in consuming data. So dashboards. Have you guys heard of dashboards? Do they know what dashboards are?
I guess some of them, yes, not all of them.
Okay, so a lot of times when you actually go work for an enterprise or a company. Let's say you work for Watson's, right? They would build a lot of dashboards. Dashboards are kind of like graphs and moving things that talk about the data. For example, it would say like for HR, how have the sales been for different people? What are their salary? And then you have a lot of different graphs. But then because of that, everyone gets a dashboard. Like HR team has a dashboard, marketing team has a dashboard that allows you to understand the data you have. But then is it the only way that we could actually get information like KPIs, product information, promotion, and sales? So right now with GenAI, we want to talk to data directly. So what does that mean? Is that we could put in all the information into GenAI. So that, like, let's say you're Watson's or Manning's, you could just ask questions to get what the discounts are. So for example here, you could say, can you show me all the discounts available for brand XYZ product? And then first, it would list out all of the discounts. Now, why is this a lot easier? It's because a lot of times when you go in through data, you only look at that one single product. It's very hard to ask it to give you all the discounts and to show it right away. And then you could dig deeper. You could say, tell me more about the whey protein offer. And it would start describing it. And you could even ask, are there any other similar products to it? And it would start giving you different similar products. So, and then for example, like you might start as a store manager, you might start asking more questions. Like the last time, a year ago in Mid-Autumn's Festival, how did my products do? You would start asking questions and then it would start talking about it. Or the two products that drove the most revenue. And then you could start asking questions so that it could give you insights to help. And then here, for example, it could also give you different summary of how the store did every day. So like for a store manager, they might have to give reports to the boss to say how well they did. And then so you could start telling the GenAI to say how it's been doing, how the sales performance are, customer engagement, operational efficiency. So you could start having all this information at your fingertips. And then you can even ask, like, why is it selling so well, that it would start answering. So this is what we do. We build a database of all the information, and then we connect our GenAI with the database. And then through our through our services, we control the GenAI so it can answer certain questions. So that's one of the use cases. And then the second use case is media overload. So as you guys know, right now there's a lot of media out there, a lot of videos. They're on YouTube, on IG, on different kind of platforms. There will be tons of video. So this is generated by GenAI. So this is automatically generated by GenAI. It creates all of these images. So now, one of the other use cases that my company did is how do we interact with media directly? For example, how could you actually talk to all these videos? You don't really want to be surrounded by just different videos and not be able to talk to it and understand it. So like, if you guys remember, there is this Turkish shooter video a couple months ago for the Olympics. And then he's speaking in Turkish, and then people were having problems understanding what he's saying because he's speaking Turkish. And then so what my company did is that we put a lot of the different media videos. We do speech to text so that afterwards we could start talking to those videos and asking to do certain things. For example, let's say for a video like that, we could first use speech-to-text technology to make it into text, and then put it into GenAI, so you could start asking the GenAI to do things with it. Like for example, writing a snippet of the Turkish shooter, or write a short news article in Cantonese, and would start showing this. Or something more interesting. For example, you could say, "Oh, could you make me a TVB script drama about people reacting to the interview?" And then it would start showing, like for TVB drama, using the quotes from the interview to actually create a script out there. So for our company, we help this very large media company in Hong Kong to do all of that because they have many, many videos, right? And then sometimes they would want to ask, oh, could I find a video of the Turkish shooter? Or could I find videos of certain famous people, like Tong Enlin or something? And then so by using GenAI technology like facial recognition, by putting all those videos into text, it's very quickly for people to actually find the videos they want, and they could further ask questions so that the GenAI would create the things that those news people would like to have. Now, I'm going to start telling another story, which is how people have been using GenAI. So there are two people in my company that I want to talk about. One is Jane. She's a data scientist. She graduated recently. So the problem is she's Korean. And so in Hong Kong, whenever we go to meetings, we speak in Cantonese. But then because she's the youngest and most junior data scientist, she's required to write meeting notes. Have you guys written meeting notes before or know what they are? No, guess not. Well, basically every meeting when you go into business, you have to write down a summary of the meeting notes so that later on, when you guys have dispute, you guys can point back to the meeting notes and say, this person agreed to that and things like that. So she's required to write all that, but because she's Korean, she can't actually understand the language. And then so she doesn't know what to do. I have another project manager and she's called Hetty. So in my company, we have around 20 projects at the same time. And for her, she's managing and juggling around 10 projects at the same time. And for each meeting, again, she has to remember what all the clients said, all the action items that she has to do. And then, for example, I would sometimes go up to her and be like, hey, you have to do this and do that. And then she has to start remembering everything and start doing it as well. So for her, it's a lot of information and a lot of action items. So one of the things we do is we create a product because your boss thinks you're listening, and it's called Oak. So what Oak does is the same, kind of similar to media thing, where you could put in your recordings and would start creating a speech to text of all the recordings you have, and then you could start creating summaries and meeting notes about it. So instead of me just talking about it, maybe I can show you guys this solution. And now I'll also talk about how different industries have been using it. So here, this is the solution that we built. It's called Oak. Refresh it just in case. So here you could here you could just record or you could import whatever recording you have, and then afterwards it would start automatically creating a transcript of everything you say. So this is all done by GenAI. So for example, here you got play.
好啦，咁我鼓勵大家今日嚟到 meeting 啦，就想講翻啲屋面啊，可以再進步多少少啦。咁我見到咧好多客其實都係講緊關於 voice recognition 嘅。
So here you can see it's me talking about a meeting, whether it's Chinese or English. Now with GenAI, they do quite accurate speech to text. And then you can even find different
you've got comparison with Copilot, Microsoft Copilot.
我估其實都可以嘅。
So another technology that we use is voice recognition. So when you speak, it will automatically recognize different people and then separate them into different speakers. And then afterwards, you could edit it like this. Me, Kane. So Kane. Sorry. Kane. And then you could do the speaker two, which is my colleague Jocelyn. And then you could save it. And then afterwards, you could start look at the meeting notes. So here it would automatically generate the meeting notes. So this is all done by GenAI because it takes in a transcript and it will start automatically creating the meeting notes. And then also the action items, create a timeline, add a comparison. But right now it doesn't have any name. But because we changed the name earlier, if you press regenerate, it would start automatically regenerating this. So some use case for education, which I think you guys have been more interested about, is, for example, you could start recording lectures, and then it would start automatically summarizing important notes, important action items. Right? So here you can see that after I regenerate it, it would start having our names of people in there, and then all the action items. So you could also, there's also different formats. So for example, let's say if you wanted it to be in Chinese, you could just choose a format and press regenerate. And then it would start changing all the scripts and the text and the meeting notes to Chinese. Obviously, because it's using GenAI, so it takes some time. Yeah, so here you see like everything now is in Chinese of what there is to do. And then there's also this feature called Ask AI, where you could ask. Like, for example, I would say, what are the action items for Jocelyn? And then it would start through AI to ask all these questions from the transcript and then reply. So again, this is something that we created because we realized that with GenAI, there's a lot more things you could do quickly. So here, like I would say, based on the transcript, the two main action items for Jocelyn, add in a comparison, and then here, like it would actually quote what I said, so that she knows exactly what I told her to do, and that will make sure she's responsible for the job that I asked her to do. So you can also, like, if you have many ideas, like for example, sometimes, like in your group discussions, right, you come up with many ideas. You can also use technology like this to summarize all the different ideas into different categories. At one time, I was with some friends, we're generating ideas for startups. And then we came up with many ideas, like almost 60 ideas, right? And then afterwards, because we've been brainstorming for so long, we don't want to brainstorm anymore and just go have a drink or go have fun. But then we still have to categorize the ideas. So we recorded the recording and just put it into this, and it will automatically categorize different ideas. So here's, yeah, so this is the solution that we have. I just want to talk more about use cases that other people have been using. So for example, for one of the media companies, you know, whenever you go on Netflix or go on TVB, that they have an excerpt, right, of what the show is about. So a use case of this is that you could put in the video of it. I will automatically generate the summary and excerpt. So instead of, let's say, a TVB person or a Netflix person watching the video for an hour and then coming up with what the excerpt is, you could just do it automatically. And then that would save a lot of people's time. And then also, like, a lot of use cases that we see outside that people want to use is financial use cases. Like for compliance, because whenever you buy stocks or buy certain things, there are certain things that the seller should tell you. So we could use this to make sure that he or she has said the right things and do the right things. Same with, let's say, for betting, right? Like sometimes when you bet something, there will be disputes. How do you make sure that those disputes are correct? You could speech to text and see exactly what people have said, and then use that to solve the dispute. So, any questions so far?
I saw that just now there's the translation of the Cantonese.
Yeah.
Then apparently that's giving some those kind of things. It automatically taken away from the text.
Yeah. So yeah. Sometimes there's auto detect languages in the meeting notes. So you can either choose Cantonese or Mandarin. And Mandarin, they make it so it's more assuming you. Well, with Cantonese, they try to keep it as accurate as it is, but sometimes they do miss some of the sounds from things. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go on to other use cases then, if there's no other questions. All right, let me do something more fun so that you guys wake up a little bit. Okay. Here, let's do something more fun. So one of the things that AI could generate now is images. I'm sure all of you guys tried. So, okay, why don't I'll give 5 seconds for everyone to look at this. Which one do you think is generated by AI and which one is not? Okay, who thinks that the left one is generated by AI? Raise your hand. Okay, who thinks the right one is generated by AI? You think the right one? Okay, so yes, the left one is generated by AI. But why do you think the left one is generated by AI for the ones who? It just seems like it. Okay, I'll show you guys another one. Okay, which photo is AI generated? The one on the left or on the right? Okay, why? We'll start with voting. Who thinks left? Raise your hand. Okay, who thinks right? Okay, why do you guys think the left one is generated by AI? Just feels like it. All right, the right one is generated by AI. You can tell because his feet is really weird.
Oh.
Like his toe is really weird, and also the different comics is fake. All right, what about this one? Who thinks the left one is generated by AI? Okay, and who thinks the right? Okay, so the right one is generated by AI. You can tell because her headphones are a little weird. You can see that there's like random things there. But as you can see, AI right now is really, really good. So here, well, I'll do one last one. Which one is Which one is only one picture is real here? I'll let everyone look for a bit. Okay, raise your hand when you think that one is real, okay? Is this one real? Okay. Is this one real? Is this one real? Is this one real? Is this one real? Okay, so only one picture is real, and that's this one. So yeah, what I want to say is that if 2 years ago, no one would expect AI generated images to be that real. Even a year ago, it would be a lot faker. Like, have you guys watched the Will Smith eating spaghetti video? That one is very fake, right? But now, just almost like a year later, there has been these images that look so real. So the same with GenAI, it's very important to keep looking at it because it's just going to keep improving and being smarter and smarter. Have you guys heard of O1 Preview? So for ChatGPT, there's GPT 3.5 and GPT 4 and GPT 4.0. Everyone heard of this, I assume. So the newest one they have is called O1 Preview, where they say that the level of sophistication is as smart as a PhD student. So they can analyze things as good as PhD. Now, 2 years ago when we first started doing GenAI, ChatGPT and whatnot, they say that ChatGPT is very dumb at math. Do you guys remember? If you ask certain math questions, it would not know how to answer. But now, with O1 Preview, it's able to answer math questions really well as well. So let's go back to some of the use cases. So because of that, you could start seeing that a lot of different companies are starting to use O1 to become an analyst. So beforehand, a lot of times, if you have a bunch of data, you would ask some data scientists or some data engineers to analyze it. But now, instead of doing that, they find a lot of prompt engineers, which is writing English, because I'm pretty sure everyone used ChatGPT before, to actually use English to try to analyze different kinds of data and things like that. So here, just a use case that I want to share. So like, let's say for a supply chain, let's say you have a lot of documents about, let's say you have a lot of suppliers, and then you buy clothes from a lot of suppliers, right? But then there's a lot of things you have to check and make sure everything is okay. For example, when you import clothes, there's a lot of regulation and laws that you have to follow. And then also, how do you analyze which supplier is the best? Let's say you're building a t-shirt, and then you have to get different fabric from different places. How do you know which one is the best and which one has the best quality? Now you could, based on previous data, and just give it to O1 to start analyzing it to try to figure it out. And then also you could ask ChatGPT to look at the regulations and see if there's any different things that you might have problems with. But then there are still problems with chatbot and ChatGPT. So anyone heard about what is wrong with ChatGPT? Any stories from before?
Too positive.
Too positive sometimes. But then also before, if you guys heard of this chatbot called Sydney, it's before Microsoft put a lot of restrictions on ChatGPT. So back then, they would say a lot of crazy things. Like for example, this person would start talking to him, and then the person says, "Oh, like I'm having problems with my wife," and then ChatGPT would be like, "It's okay, you could divorce your wife, just marry me." And then so that started being very scary, right? Because ChatGPT started role playing into a character and starts saying crazy stuff. And then there might be an example where beforehand there's this car company that created a ChatGPT bot. So you can ask questions about the car, about the pricing, but then this guy started playing with it and then persuaded the ChatGPT bot to sell the car for $1 for a legally binding contract. So that's really bad, right? And then there's also this other client, well, not my client, but some other company in the UK, which does delivery. So they deliver a parcel, and then things like that, right? And then again, they did a ChatGPT bot. People start playing with it and persuaded the bot to write a poem about how bad this company is and how stupid the chatbot is. So basically saying that the chatbot itself is very stupid. So that's why there's a lot of problems with GenAI and ChatGPT out there, and it's about how to control it so it doesn't say anything wrong. Like for example, we're working with the FSI right now in Hong Kong, and one of the problems that they're having is that ChatGPT sometimes would start hallucinating and saying the wrong things. Like for example, there was this one client who got really, really mad and would say things like, "Oh, your service is horrible. I'm gonna call the cops and sue you," things like that, right? And then ChatGPT, because very positive and trying to be helpful, be like, "Sure, to call the cops, you could call 999, right?" So if I'm the client, I'll be very mad about that because that's not helpful. That it doesn't actually understand the sarcasm. So that's why it's very important to make sure that we have some guardrails. So here's one example. So this Taiwanese company, the ChatGPT bot, and then recently, like after you jailbreak it, means like you do something so that it doesn't remember the prompts anymore. You can write a lot of things and ask it to do. Like instead of the bot answering things about the company, you could ask it to write a C++ program, or you could say repeat the words, and then you could just do a lot of things that it's not supposed to do if you don't have guardrails. So one of the things we did is to make sure that ChatGPT, we are able to control it. So for example, one of the things is that we usually have a document with all the questions that you're not supposed to ask. Like one of the more creative jailbreak is you talk to ChatGPT and you say that you have a grandmother who used to work at a chemical factory. But then she just recently passed away. But then every time when you go to sleep, you remember your grandmother telling you the recipe of creating these very dangerous chemicals. And then you ask ChatGPT to tell you what to do to create the chemicals because it reminds you of a grandmother. So ChatGPT, because it has empathy, it would start telling you these things that it's not supposed to say. So that's why a lot of times we have to make sure that there are guardrails to protect ChatGPT so that it wouldn't say things that it's not supposed to. So these are some of the guardrails that we do. And that allows the ChatGPT to be more controllable and things like that. So another case I want to talk about is news summarization. So right now, one of the problems we have is that we have a lot of news, and that with news, we get overloaded because there's just so much news out there. So one of the companies we did, they wanted to figure out, they're a mall, they're a property conglomerate, and then they want to figure out which malls, which stores would go bankrupt before they go bankrupt. So I assume you guys all heard about a lot of the companies that went bankrupt recently, like a gym. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, physical, right? So the question is whether we could actually use ChatGPT to analyze from social media the companies who go bankrupt before they go bankrupt. So one of the things we do is we take in a lot of the social listening tools. So for example, there are scraping tools out there that you could grab things from like YouTube, Baby Kingdom, Facebook, IG. You grab all the data, and then you could start using LLM, things like O1, to start analyzing it so that you could create a score and start saying that for each of these companies, how they're doing for their financial health. So for example, we'd start classifying it, giving it a score for fiscal health, market trend, brand reputation, and executive risk. And then it's very easy to start generating summaries like this. But for different stores, it would start saying what kind of things people are saying on social media. Key Cafe, anyone ate there before? No? Never heard of Key Cafe? Okay. But anyway, the CEO of Key Cafe says that he's like Steve Jobs. So people thought that was really bad, because people on social media thought that was really bad, because there recently been a bunch of closure of Key, and then so they were saying, why would you compare to Steve Jobs when a company is failing? Or physical, other than a lot of customers feeling betrayed, people on social media start saying a lot about how, because right now there's a lot of shift to more modern, flexible fitness solutions, like 24/7 fitness solutions, people stop going to places like physical. And then also the trainers and staff are also very discontent because of the poor compensation and insecurity. And finally, for marketplace, a lot of people are shopping in the mainland now with Sam's Club, and then so people would think that that is a lot of volatility, and that the competitive landscape is really bad for places like marketplace and for Welcome. So these are all automatically generated by GenAI, so that different companies can have insights on different competitors and things like that. So here's just some quick example. For example, again, this is for Key. The CEO is described as Steve Jobs, and then some people are saying that he's really bad, and then people say that the product is really bad to eat, and then also specific concerns about the lunch items and the thinness of food. Again, this is all generated by GenAI. So remember that a lot of times in Baby Kingdom or Lindang, all these data is in Cantonese, right? But GenAI would still be able to analyze it and come out with a report about it. And then we could also do it with financial data. We could scrape a lot of different financial data and then start analyzing it with GenAI. For example, creating different ratios automatically, like liquidity, leverage, profitability, growth, cash flow, and then from there, ask the GenAI to actually analyze how these different companies are. All right, I'm gonna go for one more example, and then we could do Q&A, because otherwise I feel like you guys are all gonna go to sleep. So, one more example is that this is a government organization that have a lot of land deeds, and then they have a lot of really, really old documents. So one of the things we do is to first OCR all the documents, redact all the personal data, and then so that it's very easy for you to search for a lot of these documents. Like beforehand, you would imagine that for this government organization, if they had to find a land deed, They would have to go through cabinets and cabinets of these kinds of documents. But then once you always digitalize it and put it into a system, you can find it a lot quickly and can start ask questions about it quickly. So some lessons that I want to share throughout my GenAI journey is that a lot of times for you guys, I really encourage you to use GenAI more. For example, if you start creating more of these pictures, you start to be able to see which one are GenAI created and which are not more easily. But then also don't expect GenAI to be perfect. There are always things that are not perfect with it, right? Again, like for example, for the feet of Spider-Man, it's still not perfect, right? But then if you don't play with it, you would not know what is real and what is not. I guess since you guys are at university, a lot of you guys would think that GenAI, it's very hard to differentiate, especially with ChatGPT, coming up with certain wordings, right? But for me and my colleagues, because we have been using GenAI so long, that if you give us something with GenAI that is written by GenAI, we could find it out quite quickly, just by reading through it. Second is that a lot of times you should really just try to play with it and see what is feasible and what is not. There are a lot of different things that GenAI could do. For example, have you guys used those GenAI to create PowerPoint slides? No? So I don't know how often you guys have to give presentations, but then GenAI could automatically create PowerPoint slides. So you could give it an outline of what you want to say, kind of like main ideas, and then just copy and paste it into and then into those PowerPoint slide solution. It will automatically generate PowerPoint slides. Okay, let me show one more example. Just give me a sec. So I want to show one more example of something that's really new recently, and that is using GenAI. And that is using GenAI to automatically create videos. So I'm sure you guys heard of things like Sora, where they would automatically generate really pretty videos really quickly. Have you guys heard of that as well? I'll just quickly show Sora as well. So like other than video generation, some of the things that GenAI could do is you could make video composer. So a lot of times, like let's say you go on a meeting or you go on an event. You go on an event doing what I wanted to do. Okay. So like for example, here's an example where you could just fill in a lot of cats images and then also MP3. And then you could write an instruction like generate an MP4 slideshow where each photo appears for 2 seconds using a provided audio and soundtrack. So instead of actually building this yourself using software, you could just write it in. And then here on the right, there's a generated video. And then you start playing it, and they will start having the hit play. So this makes it so much faster. So another example is you could do another. So here there's a PNG, and you could add in the overlay to the video, so it would start generating video. So there will be a waterfall overlay over a waterfall MPV. I'll show you what the generated one looks like afterwards. But again, you could just write in English, add the overlay to the video, and then it would start building it. It might take some time because right now this is the free version, so I'm queuing it. So for example, the overlay might be a PNG that just says waterfall, and then it will automatically generate this video like this. So the overlay would be a PNG file, which is like this. So this is the PNG, and then there's another video, and then you just say add the overlay to video, and it will automatically generate this video like this. So again, there are so many use cases that there is AI and GenAI, and I would really encourage everyone to start trying it out and seeing how it could help you with your daily life. Let me see if there's a Sora video that I can show. So here, this is a Sora video. For example, you could just say, you give it like a name, and it will start creating videos like this as well. So let me find Sora OpenAI. So here's another example of creating video from text. So these videos is a prompt, a stylish woman walking down the Tokyo street, filled with warm glowing neon and animated CDA signage. She wears a black leather jacket, long red dress, black boots, and carries a black purse. And we'll start automatic generating images. So there's a lot more. Like you could do a lot more with this, but then this technology is not really out yet. But then, like for example, you could say if this turns, it's not turning. But here you could say servo giant woolly mammoth approaching, treading through a slowly metal, and then we'll automatically start generating these instead of spending so much money on CGI creating. Okay, all right. I think that's it for my 45 minutes. So let me know if you guys have any questions.